And that, my friends, is why we invest in the stock market and we don't bet on the Super Bowl. Investor Beat starts now. Thanks for watching. I'm Chris Hill. Janet Yellen's first day as Fed chief coincided with a bad report on U.S. manufacturing. New order growth fell by the most in 33 years, sending the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P 500 all down for the day. Joining me in studio, Taylor Muckerman and Jason Moser. Guys, our top story. The Seattle Seahawks won Super Bowl 48. That much is certain, but what is less certain is which companies won the advertising battle. Commercials from Budweiser, Radio Shack, and others got positive reviews, but what in fact will it do, if anything, for their bottom line? We talked about this earlier today. We got a photo of Scarlett Johansson up there on the screen. I'm a fan of hers, but I'm not rushing out to buy a SodaStream device. Who do you think won when it came to effective use of advertising dollars? Because we're talking about $4 million for 30 seconds here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I don't know actually that really anybody necessarily wins. I mean, I feel like at this point you're required to participate in the Super Bowl ad bowl thing because it's just sort of the way things are. I mean, I may be in the minority here, but I kind of feel like the Super Bowl ads have just jumped the shark. I mean, they're not good like they were 5 years ago. I think they make more buzz before they're ever released, a la Scarlett Johansson in SodaStream. Yeah, I mean, I look at something like the Radio Shack commercial, for example, which I give Radio Shack props for putting that commercial out, buying the time and making it. Couldn't have been easy pulling together Alf and Slim Goodbody in the same room, right. I imagine. But I mean, at the end of the day, in a week, it's going to be something that's pretty much forgotten. It's not going to be something that really affects their top line revenue, and it's not going to really do much to really save Radio Shack from what I think is just a long, slow death. So I think that the real winners are the Budweisers, the Coca-Colas that are able to get out there and continue to reinforce an already very powerful brand.
And you look at some of these commercials where the concluding screenshot had a hashtag. Right. Twitter getting a lot of attention today, in part because 30 million tweets sent during the game, and the advertisers were really pushing that.
Yeah, you have to imagine later on in the game, people were tweeting after the commercials rather than watching the game itself because it just wasn't that exciting anymore. But yeah, free advertisement for them because hashtags are geared towards Twitter. Facebook tries to get into the hashtag game a little bit, but that's Twitter's bread and butter, so all for them, yeah.
Do you think this is going to continue? Because one trend we have seen over the last decade or so is the cost of live sports programming is going up for the networks. They're going to be charging more for advertising. I hear what you're saying, but I also think I don't see this changing anytime soon.
No, I don't think it'll change. And if anything, I mean, what we have more outlets than ever before for these commercials to get out. And really, most of, if not all of these commercials were released in some shape or form on YouTube beforehand. So I think that when you look at your Twitters, your Facebooks, your Googles, I think they're going to be the big winners of all of this because really now it's not a race to get it out there on the night of the Super Bowl. It's who can get it out there before the Super Bowl and really make it go viral. And so the companies that can do that, I think, they'll be the companies that really benefit from it. But no doubt, Twitter, Facebook, and Google, they're the bottom line winners there.
All right, let's get to some of the day's movers and shakers. Mattel hitting a new 52-week low today. The world's biggest toy maker is still reeling from its disappointing results in the holiday quarter. Also today, 3 downgrades. That's got to hurt too.
Yeah, it just kept coming in waves. And you look at this company still hung over from the down market Friday, blaming it on Barbie, defenseless Barbie, not able to stick up for herself.
Barbie.
Sales down 13% there, also with Fisher-Price and Hot Wheels down 8%. So I have 2 things maybe impacting this company in December. You had PlayStation and Xbox come out with new consoles, so the hardware in gaming was up 28% year over year in December alone. So those are big purchases. Maybe families bought those instead of the smaller toys that Mattel's offering. And then you got to look at the birth rate continuing to decline in the U.S., and so that's obviously impacting, as they talked about, preschool and younger was their slowest growing segment in the fourth quarter. So you're seeing a lot of children not coming into the United States as it was back in the 60s. They said 50% less fertility rate now. So those are 2 things I was worried about for them. But they did have something strong to say about emerging markets, which is kind of a sour note on a lot of people's mouths right now.
All right, Amazon falling again today as analysts play the guessing game on when the company will raise the cost of an Amazon Prime membership and by how much. In the meantime, about $25 billion shaved off Amazon's market cap.
Well, I'm not going to sit here and make the argument that Amazon was cheap. I mean, I don't think anybody could really make that argument, but I do think it's misunderstood just in really what it does, the competitive advantage that it has in its global footprint. Really, Bezos is a very driven leader. So it's actually kind of nice to see Amazon pulling back here a little bit, especially for me, a guy who maybe wouldn't like to add a few shares on the cheap. But I mean, it was a decent holiday quarter. It wasn't a holiday quarter that knocked everybody's socks off. And then in the call, they did talk about the possibility of raising that price on Prime from $20 to $40. Now, you know, I noodled this all weekend, really. I know it's hard to believe, but my life is that boring, Chris. This is actually going to be something that really can work out very well for Amazon if they play their cards right, because ultimately what it's going to give them the chance to do, I think they're going to establish more price points. Instead of just $79, one size fits all, this gives them a chance to make a little bit of a higher price point, maybe a little bit of a lower price point, differentiate those offerings to let people really sort of assign the value to what matters most to them in that relationship. The bottom line is more members, you know, and right now we know they have around 20 million Prime members, paying Prime members. If they can get that up to 25 or 30 million, then you see this thing really start taking off. It's kind of like Netflix in the way that with the video stuff, I mean, once they get that fixed expense paid off, then every subscriber is just incrementally that much more valuable. So I think this will work out for Amazon, but you know, take advantage of the downtime.
U.S. Silica Holdings down again today after preliminary results for the fourth quarter came in light. Shares down nearly 15% in just the last 2 days. Not a company we talk a lot about.
No, I brought this up because Jason pointed out Carbo Ceramics last week. They were up big, and it's a competitor in the proppant space and the energy. Talk about breaking open those fissures and keeping them open so oil and natural gas can rise to the surface. Carbo Ceramics up huge last week. U.S. Silica down huge this week because they talked about weather delaying some production in the middle of the United States, like talking about the Bakken or the Permian Basin. So I'm thinking, you know, Carbo Ceramics with their ceramic proppants versus the silicone product here, maybe they're the winner in the long run in this industry that's been growing pretty rapidly.
And finally, shares of Ford Motor are falling after the company blamed bad weather for January sales being softer than expected. Chrysler Group wasn't using that excuse.
Polar vortex.
I'm just
Chris.
saying.
Polar vortex. No, I mean, as quickly as Ford put out a great quarter, you know, January sales were down 7%. GM didn't fare much better either, and Chrysler coming off a bit of a lower base is, you know, it's kind of what we see this give and take with the big three in Detroit. But I was surprised to see that Ford actually saw a 43% increase in Lincoln, which was surprising to me because honestly, I didn't even realize Lincoln still existed. But I guess that's good, right? And you know, honestly, I think Ford is continuing to build cars that people want. They're picking up some market share in China, which is good. It's sort of a give and take with this company, and I don't know that I'm a big fan of the big automakers, but this could represent a buying opportunity for someone who's interested.
All right, that's going to do it for today's action. Give me a stock I can put on my watch list.
Suncor Energy reports tomorrow morning before the bell. Big name in Warren Buffett's energy holdings. I'm interested to see what they talk about Keystone XL. The environmental study finally came out saying that it's not going to impact carbon emissions like most people had been thinking. So 90-day review period coming up, and maybe we'll get some answers on whether that's going to be accepted or not. And Suncor will be a direct beneficiary of that as they're an oil sands producer in Canada. So I'll see if their CEO mentions it or if the analysts pepper him with questions.
All right, Jason, what about you?
Yeah, Yum Brands earnings come out later, and you know, China has been the story with these guys for, it seems like, the last 2 years now, ever since the avian flu came out. They make about half their sales from China. Actually, more than half their sales come from China. Last quarter, they said that China comps were unlikely to be positive. So they've kind of set expectations pretty low here. That could be something that surprises to the upside. Probably not a business I'm all that interested in investing in, but it does have a very large global footprint, and for those who are interested, I'd keep an eye on it.
All right, for Jason Moser and Taylor Muckerman, I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.